Hey, let's take a look at this video today. This is something that actually one of my friends sent it to me to take a look. So I decided to, have a look with the rest of you as well, and we'll see what this video is actually about. I have no idea. Honestly, I have zero clue what it is.
When I started playing video games, it was a fun pastime where you connected with family and friends. Game developers were passionate. They
Debatable.
put their heart and soul into their games because they knew if they could land a hit, they could do it again.
I think for me, video
Sometimes this is
games.
called the
I mean, I guess for her, it's pastime, friends, family. That's very healthy to look at it. But I guess at least for me, video games was a way to escape into a world where it is bizarre and interesting. It's not that I mean it's not like my life is very boring or anything like that, but it just feels different. It's always felt different. It's always felt there's something greater, something grand, and that's something that's more, I would say, more fantastical.
the pinball motivation. Opinions about games were freely shared and everyone enjoyed the discussion. After all,
Of course, I
it's
still like to
just
play games with
games.
friends, but at the
Sadly,
same
this
time,
is not the
I think
world
maybe
we
that's why
live
I
in
enjoy
today.
more single player
Gaming is
games than
surrounded by
multiplayer.
division and acrimony. Sharing your opinions about your gaming preferences has become a flashpoint. So, how did we get here? How did a fun hobby get surrounded by so much anger? Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
I really think that it's when I already think that once a gaming company goes public, they have the obligation to investors, and investors are not necessarily gamers, and that kind of defeat the purpose and the, I would say, a direction where a game company might go, or what the end goal of a game company initially had, and might change because of they have to appease the investors. Of course, I'm not saying that investors are not gamers. I mean, I believe in the future more and more investors who does a lot of hedge fund or a lot of, I guess, just doing stocks or just individuals, like individual stocks, are gonna be more gamer because how popular gaming is since the, I would say, I think a lot changed since the early 2000s, and gaming has become a core for a lot of people's childhood, even through their teenage years and even adulthood. So there's gonna be more like that, and I'm pretty sure that more and more people are understanding what gaming is and what the purpose of gaming is. But as of now, a lot of, I would say, the older generations or Gen X ish, or some like the top of the hedge funds, they may not necessarily understand the gaming culture as a whole. At least that's all my personal opinion. At least no base on it, so we will see.
I love making games. I love game developers. I love playing games. I want the industry to thrive. And in
Yeah,
some ways, the
same as me.
industry is okay. There are many games that are doing just fine.
Yeah,
But
true.
as many of you have pointed out, we also have a culture war
Like me
raging
side right
around
now, I
gaming,
think
and it's
sold
destroying
a
some of
million
our favorite
copies. Of
franchises
course,
and studios.
congratulations
There are several
to the two
reasons we are
devs.
here today,
We're well
and like
done.
many things, what you'll find at the heart is a series of small steps by good people with a few bad actors mixed in. If you look back in gaming history, you will find that controversial content is not new. Games have always had strong
True.
narratives. This is because games start as ideas that are eventually translated into digital form.
I think, like I said a long time ago, that there are a lot of games that always had political messages, but it really all depending on whether the game force you for those like messages onto you, or make you think what kind of what those messages mean. It really depending on what it really depending on forcing someone to think and making someone think. That I think that's mostly the distinction between the two.
Teams start by gathering reference material from the world around them to help define what is in their mind. They pull from the lore of a franchise, sometimes history, current events, movies, other games.
Yeah, Mirror Edge is also about
Games are
freedom.
creative dialogue on what has been
I
and
think
what might be.
it's a little bit
And reference
anti-government.
material has a narrative. It has a perspective. It's easy to see this if you read a history book, because you will hear wildly different opinions on what happened based on where you grew
BioShock,
up. Game
of course.
developers naturally end up exploring themes and ideas based on what inspires them, and I would argue that's a good thing. Developers should be exploring and innovating, but they need to understand where they are. They need to understand their risk, because even though strong narratives in
Also,
games
pursuit
hasn't
of
changed, what
Utopia.
appeals to the broadest audience possible has narrowed. It's easy to alienate large groups of people if expectations aren't met. And this is what I think.
I think this is like trying to broaden the audience. It's really backfiring on them right now, because you're not expanding the circle, you're actually just moving the circle away. and you're not, basically the new game, it's not capturing your core audience anymore, but you try to expand you win and you try to move the circle somewhere else.
Happened with Dragon Age. They made an expensive game that didn't appeal to a large part of their current fan base. That means they lost sales, and now they have to go out and acquire new fans if they want to make their money back,
And that's
or
impossible.
at least make enough money
I don't
so
think it's
that
possible.
EA lets them make another game.
I
For
don't think
me,
that's
it's been
possible anymore.
interesting to watch this change in the industry. Game publishers used to put in extra effort
Everything that new BioGuard, basically they lost their core audience, and also they did not capture any new audience, because if you just look at the current player base and the sales number and concurrent player, at least on Steam itself, that number basically says who your current audience is, and you just alienated so many of your core audience, and you're not gonna buy back their trust anymore with the next game. Very hard, unless you can pull like a No Man's Sky and spend 10 years to constantly improving on the same game, or else you're not gonna get it back.
avoid offending people. They wanted to make games that would appeal to the broadest possible audience.
Yeah, I think that's a
Microsoft,
mistake.
for example, was very risk averse.
I mean, you look at Baldur's Gate 3, they did not try to do that. They just tried to make a game that what they like to play.
And they wanted to call it Hellbender. Well, marketing was upset. They were
And they're
worried
successful
that
because their
putting the word
passion
hell
projected
in the
through their
name
own
of a
game.
game next to the Microsoft logo was going to damage the brand. And so that team had to go to Bill Gates in order to get approval. I experienced this caution personally when I was producing the game Fighter Ace. I was asked to demo it at a Microsoft shareholders meeting. During rehearsal, I said that I was going to jump in the game and shoot down some people. Everyone freaked out. The executives thought that language was too edgy for Microsoft shareholders.
Yeah,
And instead,
see,
they asked me to say I was shooting at targets.
the
Then
edgier
there
the
was
better.
that time we were in the final days of making Deadly
I
Tide,
really
and
don't
someone
think
noticed there
anything
was a
changed.
problem. You see, if you slow this down and you look closely, you'll find that New Zealand was just left off the world map. Of course, Microsoft New Zealand noticed and asked us to fix the problem. But after a lengthy discussion, the team decided to pass. They didn't think people would notice, and if they did, Microsoft could just tell them it's sunk in this fictional world. There was also that time when all the Microsoft distributors in Turkey were arrested because Encarta 95 had released with a map that included an area for Kurdistan. That one did get fixed. Of course, Microsoft was a good company. They didn't want people getting arrested, and they knew they couldn't expect game developers to be well-versed in geopolitical issues. So they started hiring. They hired a group of localizers and created an entire group to help the product teams be sensitive to those issues. You couldn't have a game developer putting the Microsoft brand at risk. After having those experiences, I'm baffled about some of the things I'm seeing today. Did any
Oh my
of the
gosh, Shadows
executives
is
at Ubisoft question whether or not
Shadows is such a disaster in terms of, I don't like to use this term, but cultural appropriation. I think this is probably the only time that you can actually use this term to describe something. The fact is, they got so many, I would say, so many Japanese cultural icons wrong. It's kind of a mistake that you almost don't see Assassin's Creed made, that they would possibly make these type of mistake years ago. When you see they're making these type of mistake now, you can see the decline in the quality of the development team. and the company as a whole.
Doing Assassin's Creed Shadows was a good idea? I've been to Japan many times.
Yeah, you have
I've
Japanese people actually speaking
Arcade,
out on this,
and during
which is really
Xbox, I
embarrassing.
managed a team there. I love the people and the culture.
Of
And
course.
based on that experience, I would never have agreed to do this game because even if you handled it
They have a
as
very unique
delicately as
traditional
possible, it's easy to make a
values.
mistake. And I think they have. The game isn't even out and it's already mired in controversy, and this isn't what you want for your game. Maybe it'll blow over and they'll be able to navigate.
Almost everything about that game, so many things about it was wrong. And the building structure is wrong. The layout of the tatami is wrong. The way he writes is wrong. And oh my god, it is just it's just baffling actually.
Navigate this. But if not, that was a very expensive experiment.
True.
I had a similar situation when I was in the final months of shipping Crimson Skies. One of the team pitched a game that was like Sonic, but instead of a hedgehog as the main character, they wanted it to be a totem pole. A few of us playfully nicknamed him Tommy. The pitch was great. The game sounded like it would be a lot of fun, but I said pass. You see, there is symbolic meaning behind totem poles, and even with good intentions and great care, I wasn't convinced we could navigate that complexity.
Oh my god,
Also,
that's a
Xbox was just kicking off, and we had more than
cool
enough
jacket,
on our
actually.
plate. We didn't need to take on more risk. It's funny because I thought everyone was
They
in
should keep the
agreement,
shape.
but when I
Really
went to work
should.
on Xbox full
That's
time,
cool.
I found out that the team went ahead and spent thousands of dollars to further investigate the idea and decided it was too risky. I wasn't upset about the differing opinions
So-
regarding direction.
So basically, she pointed out it doesn't seem like a good idea, and then they spend more money to prove that it's not a good idea. Okay.
Good teams disagree all the time,
True.
but when the decision is made, they get back to work. And if they can't, well, they need to leave the team. We called it disagree, but commit. Of
Yeah.
course, not everyone followed the
I mean,
principle,
yeah, that's
but
part of the
those
job.
were the expectations. In fact, I remember when I was in the final stages of shipping Gears of War, we had one leader that didn't think the game was going to be successful, and he was going around to the team and telling them that we were doomed to fail. There were several problems with this situation. The first is
To be honest, I actually really like that. So you have disagreement within the team. That means that it like everyone has a diverse type of vision towards what is good and what is bad, and it just means that you have a diversity in thoughts, and you can take their criticism on why they think the game will fail and take that into account. If it's valid, you can change things, right? To see why he would think that, was why someone would think that. And if it's invalid, then you can just ignore it. So I really
that
don't
all
see.
of our data
I
showed
just
that
don't see
Gears was
that's
definitely
much of an
going to
issue.
do well if we could finish the game at decent quality.
Yeah.
Reviewers loved it, external playtesters loved it, the test team loved playing it. All signs were good. The
Mhm.
second issue was that he was killing morale. At the end of Gears, several
Sure.
of the people on my team left their families and temporarily relocated to North Carolina to help the game ship. It is really difficult to be away from your family
Yeah, killing
and
morale is
trying
not
to
good.
finish the game and have someone telling you that you're doomed to fail. And the last issue
I
is
think
that he was
it's a
showing
bit too
poor
harsh.
leadership. When you are leaders on a team, you go to a room, you hash out your disagreements, and then you try to leave those disagreements in the room. You try to bring a united front out to the team.
True.
One day I get a call from Epic because someone on my team is actually there and crying in the hallway. And this is
I mean, if the guy has like a valid reason why the game will fail, if he has like an actual, arguments on the game itself, and not just his feelings or his just random thoughts, then it's all good. It's if it's not due to his incompetence that he actually have some sort of argument why the game will not do well, then I don't see an issue to not hear him out. But if he doesn't, then he just I guess you would just call him a bad actor, I guess.
why, because this person is being so divisive. It
Mhm.
turns out that he'd had a disagreement with someone on the team at Epic, and he was upset with them. He couldn't let it go. And he
Okay, it's a
wanted me
personal
to
grudge.
remove that person from the team.
It's a
Of course, there
personal
are
thing, of
situations
course.
where it would have made sense to have that conversation, but wounded feelings this close to ship wasn't one of those. I also explained a hard truth that management would likely replace everybody on our team before they would replace Epic. You see, they were the creators, they were the talent. We were important, but we were there to support them. and that made us more expendable. I was trying to be honest with him and help him see the situation, but it didn't work. He continued with his negativity, but he just hid it better. He also added me to his list of complaints.
Jesus, okay.
It's kind of funny how I found out that he was still mad. I have this weird habit that drives people crazy.
Damn,
I tend to fidget when I'm thinking. If I have a pen in my hand, I'll click it. If I have the mouse in my hand, I'll click on the screen. I'll highlight text. I'll unhighlight it. Well, one day I was reading an email from him, clicking away, highlighting random text, and I saw that there was a paragraph of invisible text at the bottom. It was invisible because it was white text on a white background.
Brother, that's so petty. What the fuck?
Feelings, but I didn't get mad at him. I empathized with him.
That is so petty.
I know sometimes it's really hard to control your emotions. So instead of grabbing that ball of anger and sending it right back at him, I decided to let it go.
That's so
that said,
petty.
I didn't drop the issue, which was his destruction of team morale. I just let my personal hurt go and instead focus my energy on supporting the team and the game.
I mean, that's what you do for work,
to show him
right?
through my actions a better way to lead.
I mean, the thing is that, I mean, you just do good work, right? Don't let those like personal insults distract you from your actual work. You know, show the world why your work matters. I think that's the best way to prove someone wrong, right?
I feel fortunate that social media wasn't a thing then. I would have been devastated if he had taken his feelings publicly, which is what appears
oh my
to have
god, imagine the Twitters on that thing.
If you haven't heard, the art director of the game Avowed, which is set to ship early next year, decided to post some comments publicly about his game.
Oh my
Apparently
god.
there are pronouns in the game, and Elon Musk reacted on X saying that having pronouns in a fantasy video game is utterly unacceptable. To which the art director responded, I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game, and I...
You know what's the best way to do? When Elon said that? Just ignore it. You know, that just ignore it. You know, that's the best thing you can do. You don't have to say anything, just ignore it. It doesn't matter, just ignore it. Or you can say something positive like, oh, but you can always try our game and stuff like that, but you know, just ignore it. It doesn't matter. Just ignore it. Just
I cannot believe it actually happened. Just wait until you see the default, you said little shit.
Jesus.
I personally find this situation baffling. Does he know Elon personally? Why does he want to make Elon mad with his game? Why would you say this to someone who is easily one of the most controversial people on the planet and therefore has millions of people?
No, they don't know Elon personally, but Elon's on the opposite side. That's why.
Reading his posts.
He doesn't I mean, the thing is, he doesn't have to know Elon personally. He just has a general idea of who Elon is because of where Elon stands politically. So he can just make those generalizations and then, you know, and go from there, I guess. It basically just headcanon the whole thing.
Action may be the one impression that people
just have to shut up. That's it. I think
Avowed.
I think people need to learn just when to
ends up not buying it.
When to just shut up.
What I'm not fine with is a leader putting his team and game at risk. And this is where social media comes in.
I think these people are extremely selfish. They only think about having that satisfaction, just momentary satisfaction in like one tweet or two tweets, but they did not think about the outcome of what that can cause in terms of PR, in terms of for the team. And I bet a lot of the team probably just secretly thinking, just shut up, man, just shut up. But under like certain work environment, you cannot just simply say that, which is very much a shame, actually.
At any point, you can read something, get offended, and with one emotional outburst online, you can change your game's momentum. You can ruin years of a team's work. Of course, Avowed is likely going to be review bombed. There are plenty of people that are more than happy to join in the fight.
If it's on Steam, I will
Avowed
play
is
it.
now mired in
I have like a list of
controversy,
game I will
and
play in
when they launch,
2025.
They will have to overcome this situation.
Although
And
Avowed is
that's the
kind of on the
tragedy,
maybe
because
because
it
there's
sounds
so
like it
many
might
games
be a
coming
great
out next
game,
year.
And it's heartbreaking to think that it may never get a chance. I feel sorry for the team that's working on the game, because having all of this going on while you're trying to final a game, it's not fun.
So it turns out,
And basically it's a very selfish act. Basically just a very selfish act. Basically doomed the entire team, which is which is unfortunate. But I guess that comes down to the whole toxic positivity in a lot of those studios, where you simply cannot disagree with someone. I guess that's the kind of environment that the higher ups are fostering, and the teams are actually not fighting back against. You could say that they might take partial responsibility for having that kind of, for nurturing that kind of environment. But at the same time, it's also unfair when some people just simply want to do their work and then go home.
That not only will I be the one who will know as first which game wins tonight, but I actually also know which game is going to win next year, the year after, and the year
I
after.
do hope that's the case.
Now, how do I know this? Well, an oracle told me. She said, change is coming.
If you're wondering why I'm optimistic, it's because I believe in people. I think that there are only a few people.
You know why I'm optimistic? Because these studios kept losing money. When they lose enough money, it will change. It's not about the people. It's not about anything. It's all about how much money they can make. And right now, when you look at what games will make money, are all the games that are born out of a certain passion, right? You see a lot of indie games and AA games that's been coming out with record number for sales. You look at Helldivers, you look at Palworld, you look at Balatro, you look at even like a game like a Meeside, right? A very simple horror game, was done by two guys, and it just born out of purity for the love of the game. And when you have that kind of passion for gaming, and the gamer will see it and they will throw money at you, it's just as simple as that. And I think that once the studios has lost enough money from either from these crazy people that's posting very I wouldn't say very controversial like tweets, oh my god, I can't even speak anymore, very controversial like tweets, or having controversial opinions, or not really controversial opinions, or just no longer making good games, I'm sure that the studio would do something to change course.
Who are causing this divisiveness. It is not the majority. Most people want things to be better.
Yeah, of
and
course.
So they will be. And I believe we will eat that elephant together, one bite at a time.
They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow. They were driven by idealism and wanted players to have fun. And they realized that if the developers didn't have fun, nobody was going to have any fun. Yeah. They understood the value of respect. That if they treated their developers,
that's why I'm looking forward to Rebel Wolves.
Those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned.
Since
but above all,
it seems like they're focusing more on the team
about their game because they loved games. And the game of the year is Astrobot.
Even though I kind of feel like Astro Ball is a bit of a complete opposite of what Swin said, but of course, congratulations as well. But yeah, that's the video. I really don't think that it's because of people and anything like that. It's because once the studio started to lose a lot of money, and once the studio, kept losing money, and then they don't see any profit in a certain political side, I guess, in certain, I would say, in certain discussions, of course they'll switch. Like, a company exists to make money. It's not, it's not like they're gonna sit back and they kept losing money, right? And they can see the trend and where gaming culture is going. So I think that, like I said before, I think in my previous, some of my videos before, but I think 2025 is going to be a huge year for gaming. It's going to be a turning point for a lot of studios, and I still stand by that. I really think so. A lot of gaming studios might have their last game, especially AAA studios, might have their last game published, and either depending on where the direction is after the game, it depending on AAA studios' future. Either the team gonna disband and forming smaller AA teams, or the AAA studio completely switch their directions and they have to announce it publicly, let the player know that they have listened and they have changed. Even though I think that's the least likely scenario. I think the likely scenario is that the team gonna disband, and some of the senior members will form their smaller studios, like what Rebel Wolf is doing, like so many other teams are doing, and they're gonna have to start challenging the AAA studios. And once a studio losing enough talents, and they're gonna have to basically shutting down. I don't want to see that, but it might be the likely scenario that will come to. So 2025, I think it's gonna be a huge year, especially next year. There's gonna be some crazy titles coming out during even from the beginning of the year, right? Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out, Avowed is coming out, and WoW's coming out. Like a Dragon's coming out. Kingdom Comes 2 is coming out. Oh my god, there's so many. So cannot wait for 2025. And I'll try my best to play most of the games. And of course, I personally, I'm an advocate of indie games, so I will try to bring forth as many indie games as possible to the to everyone, and hopefully we will have a great 2025. All right, and that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye now.